Welcome to this free immigration help channel. In this video, I'll show you how to fill out and submit I-765 application for employment authorization. Before we begin, I have to mention today is May 21st, 2024, so make sure that you are looking at the updated version of the I-765 application. The most recent update that came out is from April 1st, 2024. You can check it under the edition date tab. I will show you how to find the main page and where to find the main page of this application in a little bit. And I have to mention that I am not an immigration attorney. This is not legal advice. All the information provided in this video and on this channel in general is directly from official government sources, in this case U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services official government website, USCIS.gov. If you have any questions along the way in this video, just drop them in the comments below. On this channel I do Q&A videos where I go through all of the comments. I always have them pulled up, I answer them and post them in the video in the Q&A video response. So let's start with the I-765 application for employment authorization form. Now, what is it for? It is for your ability to have a legal right to work in the United States of America. It is applicable to some of the immigrants. It is applicable to some non-immigrants who are here for the purposes of doing business or doing some kind of work, having some kind of employment. And some, like I said, some immigrants that are not permanent residents yet and are on the way to become permanent residents, because as soon as you become a permanent resident, you already have by default the ability to work legally in the United States of America. So as a permanent resident, you don't need to deal with this application at all. But let's start from the very beginning, from USCIS.gov. This is the official government website, like I said, for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And this form can be found quite easily from the main menu right here at the very top. Click on the forms, and it has the quick access right here. I-765 application for employment authorization. If you don't see it there for some reason, maybe it's not a popular form anymore, just click on all forms. You can scroll down and find it. It's in alphabetical numerical order, or just type in the search 765 and there you go. Now, another thing that I want to mention before taking a look into this application is that it is, as of right now, as of May 21st, 2024, this application is available to be filed online. And if it is currently available and you are able to submit it online, I would highly recommend doing that. You can still use this video as a follow along guide, because the PDF that we're going to be working with, the actual application form, the I-765, is going to be practically exactly the same as the online application. It's going to be the same exact questions, and you can fill it out following this video as well. The only thing that I want to make in the beginning distinguish the difference is that when you're filling out the online application, you don't have to worry about leaving blank spaces. It's okay to leave a blank space in an online application. It's not okay to leave a blank space in a PDF, in a paper, if you're submitting it as a, by mail, as a physical application. But I will mention that later as we go along the I-765, because in this video example, I'm going to be showing how to fill out the PDF application and then mailing it by mail. But if you can do it online, it makes it a whole lot easier. Also, I would recommend reading through these alerts. As of right now, I'm going to mention everything that is mentioned in these alerts in this video, but these alerts are there for a reason. So there might be a new one tomorrow. So you want to make sure that you are updated. The link to file the application online is right here. Once you click on it, it will take you to create the USCIS online account if you don't have it already. Once you create the USCIS online account with all of your information, you will receive the email to confirm your account. Once you log in, you will be able to select from the drop-down menu. There will be all of the forms. Just find the form I-765, start it up, fill it out. Once you fill it and complete it, you will have an option to make a payment using your debit credit card, and it makes it a lot easier because once you submit it, USCIS already has it. So it's very, very quick compared to mailing the actual paper application. Okay, another thing that I would recommend you have open going along this video, in this drop-down tab, Forms and Documents. Obviously, we're going to be working on I-765, so I'm going to open it in the new tab. Also have open the instructions for I-765. And I would recommend even reading through the whole. It's not too much. It's only, well, it's 24 pages. So it's quite some reading, but it will ensure that you understand pretty much everything you need to understand about the application, and it makes it a lot easier to follow along. But again, if you have any questions, just ask me in the comments and I will try to get to them in the timely manner. So finally, 5 minutes later, 6 minutes later, we are on the application for employment authorization document. We are starting here. Underneath this, all of this is left blank. This is for the immigration officer. So all of this, I cannot show you the select, unfortunately, but all of this at the top, we're not messing with it. We're starting here and it clearly says start here. So part 1 is the reason for applying, obviously. And there's only 3 reasons. There's 1A, 1B, and 1C. It is initial permission to accept that employment. So it is the very first application that you're submitting for employment authorization document. It is a replacement of a lost, stolen, or damaged employment authorization document, or if it is a renewal of my permission to accept employment. So if you already have an employment authorization document and you are renewing it, there you go, you're selecting 1C. If for some reason your employment authorization card was stolen or damaged or something, you're selecting 1B, and if it's the very first application, you're selecting 1A. So you're going to be making only one selection. So for the purposes of this video, I'll just put 1A. Moving further, part 2, very straightforward, information about you. So you're going to be putting in 1A, it's going to be your family name, your last name. So let's say it's going to be John Doe, like I normally do. So it's going to be Doe, the last name, given name, John. And now we're coming to the interesting part, middle name, believe it or not. So this is what I'm talking about, blank spaces. We don't want to leave any blank spaces. So if you have a middle name, if you have your father's name, like for example in some countries, a middle name is considered your father's name, you put it in there, obviously nothing crazy. But if you don't have the middle name, don't leave it blank, for sure. USCIS does not like that. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen the whole application package being returned, and with the response from immigration officer saying, don't leave blank spaces, please fill in the blank spaces with either not applicable or none. So when it comes to not applicable, we want to put NA, N/A. Now that is clearly not applicable. I would not recommend putting none for a middle name, because I actually seen somebody whose middle name became none after they put middle name none into their application. So it's funny, and it's very sad too. So you definitely don't want to be in that situation. So to avoid that, just put not applicable if you don't have the middle name. Other names used, again, it seems quite ridiculous to go and fill out all of this with NA, but that's what you have to do. That's why it's easier to fill it out on the computer. But again, if you want, you can print out the PDF, and if you don't like filling it out on the computer like I'm doing right now, you can just black ink, pen, just fill it out by hand. Just make sure you print, use print letters, and make it as clear as possible. But honestly, I would recommend doing it on the computer because it prevents a lot of unnecessary mistakes. So yes, you're going through all of these and putting not applicable, and it will prevent unnecessary returns of your application. Moving further to the page 2, part 2, information about you still, your US mailing address. Now, if you're applying for employment authorization document, you are in the United States of America. If you're in the United States of America, you should have mailing address here. Mailing address is where you receive your mail. Physical address is where you live. It might be different. In most of the time, in most of the cases, it's the same. But if it is different, then there you go. Mailing address is where you're receiving your mail. Physical address is where you live. So in care of, if there's somebody other person who lives there other than you are, or, you know, for example, if, you know, your mailing address is your relative's house, you want to make sure that it is addressed to you, so you're putting your name in care of John Doe, street number 123 street, apartment, if there is apartment, suite, if there is floor, if there is here, blank space, you can't. And this is another thing that is good that it came up. You see, you cannot click on this blank space in order to put not applicable. That's fine. Take a note of it, and then when you print it out, because you will have to print out this anyway in order to sign it, just put not applicable with a pen and it will be fine. But don't leave blank space here either. City, town, state, zip code. Imagine I filled it out for with whatever city, town, I don't know, Brooklyn, New York, and then whatever. Yeah, this is a drop down. So you get the point. You fill it out. Is your current mailing address the same as your physical address? All right. Now, if you said yes, good. If you answered no, there you go. You're providing your physical address below, right here. But if you said yes, then you can just put not applicable in all of these. It is fine if you want to put the same exact address here as well. It's not a mistake. It's not gonna do anything wrong, but you can just put not applicable everywhere because it is the same address, if it is the same address. Moving further, other information. Number 8, alien registration number. If you have it, you're putting it in here. If you don't have it, that's fine. You can type in none. That is fine. To put a none in this now, it's fine. USCIS online account number. Sometimes people have it when they register an online account. If you don't have it, that's completely fine. Just type in none. Gender, male, female. Marital status, single, married, divorced, widowed. Have you previously filed Form I-765? Now, if this is a renewal application or if it's a lost, stolen application, then you're gonna say yes. If it's an initial application, then it's gonna be no. Has the Social Security Administration SSA ever officially issued a Social Security card to you? Again, if you already had an employment authorization document, most likely you do have a Social Security number. If you don't, that's fine. Just say no. If it is yes, then they're gonna ask you to put your Social Security number right here. If you don't have it, if you said no, just type in none here as well. But again, don't leave blank spaces. Number 14, do you want the SSA to issue you a Social Security card? Now, it's not gonna make much difference because after you receive if this is your initial application, after you receive your employment authorization document, you will have to go to Social Security Administration anyway to apply for your Social Security card so that you can get a Social Security number. So it really does not make much difference what you respond here, but chances are, if you already have a Social Security card, then you'll just say no. If you don't have one, then you most likely gonna say yes. Moving further to the number 15, consent for disclosure. That's if you answered yes, I authorized disclosure of information from this application to the SSA as required for the purposes of assigning me a Social Security number and issuing me a Social Security card. And of course, if you are saying yes. Moving further, father's name, mother's name. Again, this information is used by SSA. This is the information that they need. So you're putting your father's name, last name first, then the first name, and then your mother's name, last name first, and then the first name. All right, moving further to your country or countries of citizenship. List all countries where you are currently a citizen or national. If you need extra space to complete this item, use the space provided in Part 6 additional information. I will briefly describe how to fill out that Part 6. If anywhere in this application you need extra space, you're gonna be working with Part 6. I will show you how to fill it out. It's quite simple. So, countries of citizenship, there's spaces for 2. Let's say India, and that's it. So you just say not applicable in the second one. All right, moving further to Part 2. Again, information about you, still continued. Place of birth, city, town, village of birth, state, province of birth. If it's not applicable, just type not applicable. Country of birth, India, for example. Date of birth, date of birth. Information about your last arrival in the United States. Form I-94 arrival departure record number. Now, chances are, if you entered through a port of entry, when entering the United States of America, you do have I-94, you do have that arrival departure record number. If you're having trouble finding it, I do have a video on this channel. It's called I-94 and how to retrieve it or something along those lines. Just search on this channel I-94 and it will come up. I do have a couple of videos on I-94. Passport number of your most recently issued passport. So that's your passport number. Travel document number if you have it. If you don't, not applicable. Country that issued your passport or travel document. Expiration date for your passport or travel document. Date of your last arrival into the United States on or about. So this is one of the things that people struggle with because they're having trouble retrieving the I-94. Yes, it is okay to put the approximate dates. It is fine. If you absolutely cannot retrieve the I-94 arrival departure record, that is fine to put the approximate dates. If you remember to be somewhere around September 1st, 2020, then just put that number and you'll be fine. But try obviously to find the exact dates. It would be much better. Place of your last arrival into the United States, that's going to be the state, the port of entry. So if you flew in, for example, through JFK, New York, you can either put J here because you have freedom of typing. You can put JFK, New York, or you can simply put New York. Again, it's really not that much of a big deal because again, if you put in your arrival departure record number, they will be able to pull it up without any problems. Immigration status, number 24. Immigration status at your last arrival. For example, B2 visitor, F1 student, or no status. That is when you entered. That is when you arrived. So which status did you arrive with? If you entered as a visitor, B1, B2, just type in B1, B2, student, F1. You can put no status if you arrived without any kind of status. If you arrived with something like temporary protected status, just put TPS, or as a refugee, just type in refugee. So again, not any particular formula to this, just do your best to describe when you entered the country last time, United States, what kind of status were you in. 25, your current immigration status or category. For example, B2 visitor, F1 student, parolee, deferred action, or no status or category. Again, after you entered the United States, however long you've been here, your status might have changed. All right, you might no longer be H-1B worker or a religious worker or a refugee. You might be a permanent resident, although if you're a permanent resident, you don't need to apply for the employment authorization document, but you get the point. If your status changed, you're typing in the new status. If it didn't, then you're typing in the same thing that you entered with. Student, number 26, Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, CVIS number. That is, if you are a student, you have the CVIS number. If you don't, none or not applicable. I like for the numbers to be none, and then for actual not applicable, N/A. Okay, now we're moving on to information about your eligibility category. That will determine whether you are eligible, and obviously you should be eligible if you are applying for employment authorization document. Don't just apply for no reason. But these are some of the categories that this is where you will specify based on which immigration status you are applying, based on which status in general, not necessarily immigration status, because you might be non-immigrant applying for employment authorization document. And in order to find these categories, you will have to look at the instructions specifically, not too far into the instructions, starting with the page number 2. So from page 1, who may file Form I-765. Starting on the page number 2, you will see for each one of these the categories. All right, who can apply? You can tell if you can apply or not immediately from this, and you can find the correct category for yourself the number, and I'm specifically talking about after each. For example, let's say you're a refugee. You're applying for employment authorization based on the fact that you're a refugee. A3, all right? If you're paroled as a refugee. A4, if you have a granted asylum status. A5, granted withholding of deportation or removal. A10, pending asylum and withholding of removal. C8, let's quickly scroll, temporary protected status. A12 and C19. F1 student seeking optional practical training, OPT. Pre-completion OPT, C3A. Post-completion OPT, C3B. So depending on which status you're applying based on, again, you will have to go through these instructions. I'll put the link in the description below, and you can find it on the main I-765 page, again, under Forms and Documents Download tab, Instructions for Form I-765. So find the correct one, make a mental note of it. Let's say you are a 24 months extension for STEM student, whatever that is, I'm not familiar, but C3C, all right? So you're gonna go back to the application, you're gonna go C3, and there was capital C there. I'll do it exactly as they put it in the instruction, and there you go, all right? If you are pending asylum, I think, which one was it? C8, I believe. There you go, pending asylum, C8, and it's only 2, that's fine. C8, there you go, leave this one blank, that's fine. Here is fine to leave blank. All right, again, if it's associated with kind of student, with anything study, you're gonna have to put a degree. If it's not, if it's like, for example, pending asylum, you don't have to worry about that, just put not applicable. Employer name as listed in E-Verify. Again, if your application is based on employment, you will have the employer name, so you're gonna put the employer name. But if you are applying based on, granted refugee or asylee status, then you're just putting not applicable here. You don't have to put that in there. Employer E-Verify company identification number, same thing, not applicable. If it's not applicable, if it is applicable, then you already know it and you're putting it in there. Now, 29 is specifically for C26 eligibility category. If you enter the eligibility category C26 in item number 27, which is right here, provide the receipt number of your H-1B spouse's most recent form I-797. So if it is applicable to you, if you are C26, then you should have this number that they're requesting. Just type in the number, whatever it is. I'm assuming it's that long, but if not, just put none. And we're gonna switch it back to CA as an example. Eligibility category, if you enter the eligibility category C8, which we did, which is pending asylum, have you ever been arrested for and or convicted of any crime? Hopefully not, so you will say no. But if yes, then you put in yes. 31A, C35 and C36, again category specific eligibility category. If you entered any of these, please provide the receipt number for your form I-797. Notice for form I-140, immigrant petition for alien worker. If you're an alien worker, then this is something you will have to put in here. If it's not applicable, type in none. If you enter the eligibility category C35, again it's category specific. Have you ever been arrested for and or convicted of any crime? If this is not applicable to you at all, leave it blank completely, because in this case we're doing C8, so we're not under C35, so don't check any of these. But again, if you are C35, then you'll have to respond to this. Okay, we're done with the application. It's that simple. As you can see, only a few pages. We are moving on to part 3, applicant statement, contact information, declaration, certification, and signature, which is very straightforward. So as an applicant yourself, filling out this form by yourself, you're certifying basically that you can either, I can read and understand English, and I have read and understand every question and instructions on this application and my answers to every question. And in most of these cases, this is going to be your response. But if you had an interpreter named in part 4, read to me every question and instruction on this application and my answer to every question in a certain language in which I'm fluent and I understand everything. That is if you had an interpreter services interpreting you. A lot of times I get the question about these applications, if a relative help you out with this, if someone is helping you out and there was something unclear and they translated something for you, do you need to put them as an interpreter? No. If it's your family member, if it is your close friend, somebody who is just interpreting you something little here or there, helping you out with an application, you don't have to put them as an interpreter. You put an interpreter who provides a service. So you went to someone who is being hired as an interpreter and provides you a service of interpreting. Yes, in those situations you put them there. But if it is a relative, you know, your parent, your kids help you with this application, you don't have to worry about that. And then at my request, a preparer named. Preparer is someone who helps you prepare this application, putting it all together as an application package. You are putting them. Again, it's a service. It's not someone, you know, your kids helping you put in the application together. It's someone who actually does it as a service. So in most of the situations, again, it will be just I can read and understand English. Now, applicant's contact information, that's your daytime telephone number, mobile telephone number, your cell phone, and then the email address. Select this box if you are Salvadorian or Guatemalan national eligible for benefits under the ABC settlement agreement. I'm not sure why they're asking this, but if it does apply to you, then you're selecting this. If you don't, then just leave it alone. As far as the email, I would recommend putting your email just in case if they need to reach out through the email. Well, they have additional option to reach out through the email. Okay. Applicant's declaration and certification, make sure to read through it. It basically says that, you know, you authorize the release of information. You understand that USCIS may require you to appear for appointment, like biometrics. Biometrics most likely will be part of the process of your I-765 while it is being reviewed. If you're not familiar with biometrics appointment, it's where you go to an application service center. You do the fingerprinting, the picture of you is taken, and that's really it. Pretty straightforward. Now the applicant's signature, this is what you will have to print out when you print out the application. Like I said earlier in this video, when you make those mental notes or written notes to go back and fill out some of the things, like for example here, you left it blank. You cannot fill it out on the computer, so you will print it out and you will write in NA, so that no fields are blank. And as far as the applicant signature, obviously you will sign it by hand. If you are filling out the online application, for a signature, all you're doing is you're typing in your name. That's it. Date of signature, you can put in before printing out the application, if that's when you're signing it, for example, today. Moving further, interpreter's contact information, certification and signature. I know it sounds silly, but if it's not applicable, go through all of this and put not applicable. Interpreter's mailing address, not applicable. When you print this out, put in not applicable there, put this not applicable. I know it is silly, but do that. It will prevent you unnecessary hassle of back and forth with your application package. Obviously, if it is applicable, then you're filling it all out as well, and then the interpreter themselves, they sign if you use the interpreter. And the same exact thing goes for the preparer. Again, if not applicable, put not applicable in all of these fields. If it's actually applicable and you paid someone to help you prepare this application, let them fill out all of this. Don't leave anything blank. And then they will have to say a preparer statement. They are either not an attorney or they are an attorney. So either one of these. And then their signature. And the very last page here is the page that you can print out multiple times if you need to use it more, if you really need a lot of space, which most likely you won't, but just in case, if you have on any of these fields, any information that, let's say, for example, you use more than 3 other names. Let's say you have 6 other names. All right. So what you do is you check. It's a page 1 of 7, part 2, 2A. So you're gonna add 4A, 4B, 4C. So what we go all the way down to this. Obviously you fill out your last name, first name, middle name, alien registration number, if any, page number. That was page number 1. Part number, that was part number 2. Item number, I don't remember the item number, I believe it was, so it's 2, 3, and 4. So we're gonna type in just number 4 here, because after you typed in your number 4, you run out of space. So this is where your additional names now go. Your name number 5, your name number 6, your name number 7. You get the point. It's just an example, but if you run out of any of the space, this is how you use it. That's it. The application is done. Like I said, you print it out, you sign it, you go through all of the fields that you were not able to fill out on the computer. You either fill them out by hand or you put not applicable in them so that nothing is blank. All right. I did leave a lot of blank, obviously, because I didn't want to spend a lot of time filling it out. But you have your application. Now it's time, or it doesn't matter. You could have started doing this beforehand. You could have, whenever it comes to required initial evidence. It really heavily depends on what you're applying based on. If you're applying as a student to do this OTP, the practice, whatever, you're going to be providing the evidence showing that you have a valid student visa, all right, that you have a valid student status. If you're applying based on pending asylum, you will provide the receipt from USCIS that you have a pending form I-589 application for asylum or withholding of removal. So it really depends on what you're applying based on. But there is a checklist under the tab, checklist of required initial evidence. So let's open that. And there you go. Whatever you're applying based on, as you can see, there's a lot of options here. But again, let's say you are applying for, since we did C8, that's pending asylum, let's see if we can find C8 here. Hopefully we can. Pending asylum. There you go. Pending application for asylum and withholding of deportation and removal, C8. That's our person in the example. Click on that. Did you provide the following? Evidence of a lodged or filed form I-589. Now, evidence of that can be a 797 notice of action receipt that you received in response. If an immigration judge denied your form I-589, evidence of a timely appeal. If it's in BIA, in the Board of Immigration Appeals, then you're kidding. So again, you're trying to establish that you really are in the pending asylum status. Let's see if we can find one for student. There you go. There's 2 types of students. One, F1 student who was offered off campus, and then F1 student seeking off-campus employment due to severe economic hardship or under the sponsorship of a qualifying international organization. Let's say you're in a severe economic hardship and you're trying to find a job as a student. Let's click on that. Did you provide the following? A copy of your form I-20. I-20, if you're a student, you know exactly what I-20 is. Evidence you have been invalid F1 status for 1 full academic year. This is a requirement. Evidence that accepting employment will not interfere with your enrollment in a full course of study. That can be a printout of your curriculum, for example, showing your schedule, and then you can send them the schedule of the position that you're applying for example. Evidence the employment is necessary to avoid severe economic hardship. Maybe a bank statement. Again, you see you have flexibility here. Evidence that on-campus employment is not available or is not sufficient to meet the needs that have arisen due to the unforeseen circumstances. So as you can see, there's a lot of why you're applying for the employment authorization document. Depending on why you're applying for employment authorization document, this is what you will be providing the evidence based on. So go through this. I will put the link for this in the description below. But again, you can find it here on the main I-765 page under checklist of required initial documents. Okay, now let's talk really quickly about the filing fee. How much does it cost to apply for the employment authorization document? So there was recently an update that just came out. So let's take a look at the fee schedule and see what it costs. So general filing, if you're filing by paper, it is $520. If you're filing online, it is $470. Another reason for you to file it online if possible, saving money. If you filed Form I-485 application to register permanent residence or adjustment of status with a fee on or after April 1st, 2024, and your Form I-485 is still pending, but you do need to work in the meantime, which happens a lot, it's a little bit cheaper, it's $260 paper application, $260 online. For some reason, you can save online with this one. Don't ask me why. If you're filing under the special ABC procedures for an initial employment authorization document, $520, $470. If you're requesting an EAD under category A12, C19, or C19 as a temporary protected status, TPS, $520, $470 online. So again, depending on which one you're applying based on, in some situations it's going to be zero. Like for example, in our example, even if you're applying for initial employment authorization document, initial, so not a renewal, but the very first one, C8, pending asylum application, it is actually zero. Zero paper and zero online. If you're applying for a renewal EAD under one or following categories, so let's see if C8 is here on this list. No, doesn't look like C8 is here, not C8. So if you have a granted withholding of removal, if you have a granted refugee, and I'm assuming granted asylum should be here on this list as well, but I don't see it. I do not see granted asylum on this list. Yeah, it doesn't look like granted asylum is on this list. Is a zero, but looks like C8 for renewal, you are paying the fee. Replacement, if you're applying for replacement, it's a zero for certain categories. But again, you will have to go through all of these, and I will, again, you can find it on the main page of I-765, all right? Under filing fee, just click on that, and then click on fee schedule page. Again, as of this video, as of today, when you're watching this video, it might be potentially different. Now, the very last thing that I'm going to mention in this video is where do you file the employment authorization, the paper application. Obviously, if you're doing it online, it's simple. Just pay the fee, if applicable, and it's submitted. That's it. As far as the required additional evidence, you will have a field where you can upload, and just make sure you scan it in a very nice quality so that there is nothing blurry or anything like this. You upload it through online portal and it is submitted. Super easy. But paper application, where do you file? Under the tab where to file, click on that. You will see the link for filing locations for Form I-765. Click on this. Direct filing addresses for Form I-765. Again, depending on the status that you're applying based on. In our example, we were pending asylum refugee and their spouse or children. I think it might be this one. Let's see. Let's see if C8 is here. Yes, actually it is. C8, asylum or withholding of removal applications, except ABC class members, as outlined below. Do not submit Form I-765 together with Form I-589. Keep in mind, a good thing to note. This is where you're filing. If you're applying based on foreign students, F1, click on that. F1, optional practice training. If you're filing Form I-765 by itself, this is where you're filing. If you're filing Form I-907 for a pending Form I-765, this is where you're filing. So again, go through these carefully, because for different, as you can see, for different, based on which status you're applying, in different scenarios and different application packages, you have different addresses. So again, go through carefully. If you cannot find one, drop in the comments below your question, and make sure to subscribe, and I will, once I respond to those, I put a response with the volume number in which your question was answered. So hopefully this video was helpful. Like I said, if you have any questions along the way, just drop them in the comments below, and I will try to address it in one of my next Q&A videos. But as of right now, thank you very much for watching. God bless, and I'll see you all in the next video.